This is Pro Wrestling Illustrated, a love letter to independent wrestling from Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine. I am one of your hosts, PWI editor-in-chief Kevin McElvaney. With me here, as always, the Good Witch, Divine Darling, the Conduit of Karma, the Batch Baddie, La Bruja Mas Technica, Kaia McKenna.
I love La Bruja Mas Technica. I think that might be my new favorite.
Good. Yeah, it's shades of Hechicero, but also just appropriate. So
very appropriate.
Yeah. So
a Good Witch, I think, is the most appropriate, especially today, considering our guest is a good doctor.
Oh, that was a hell of a segue.
Hell of a segue. Hell yeah.
Oh, sorry. Landon Hale, welcome to Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Thanks for coming.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, you've had a lot going on. You've been up and down the East Coast. You've been over in Europe. You've just been doing so much. So people have seen you potentially on Wrestling Open, at promotions like Action Wrestling and SCI the last 2 years. All things we can get into, but I would, and not to put you too much on the spot, but this is an interview. So,
yes.
Those Northeast and those Southeast crowds are two very different crowds that really know what they like in wrestling. So what do you think are the differences between performing in front of a Northeast crowd versus a Southeast?
I think it's more so of just like storytelling. And it's weird to say it like that because, like, again, with the exception of like Action and TWE, because I can kind of resemble their liking of fans to the Northeast style, again, like the Wrestling Opens, the Beyond, the Chaotix, Limitless. But it's like more of like the Southern based. It's like, it's very slow paced. You don't have to worry about doing so much. And like, again, everyone just, obviously with the Northeast and Southeast, they want to be involved with, the matches. They want to be involved with what you're telling. But I think more of the South is like very slow pace where it's just like, you don't need to do so much. They always say less is more, but down in the South, a whole lot less is a whole lot more. I believe up in the Northeast, and I'm sure Kaia can agree with me on this, is like it's very fast paced. It's always go, 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 go. Like these matches are like very quick sprints sometimes. You'll have your breathers of like main event matches or like big moment matches where you can take your time. But I think when you're in the South and it's not like a heavy matchup, you don't have to really do so much to get everyone engaged and everyone involved, like following along, if that makes sense.
It does. I often say I started wrestling and learned to wrestle in the Northeast, but I learned to work when I started working the Southeast, just because the people want totally different things out of the event.
Yes, and my trainer Robert Gibson, when I was wrestling under him at it's called All Pro Championship Wrestling. It's not there anymore, but like that crowd, it's like, I remember having a match where it felt like I was in the Northeast, like that kind of style where it's bing, bang, boom, bang, boom. And it's like not really much of a reaction. The next month, wrestling the same opponent, doing a different style, a little bit slower pace. And you can just tell that people are more interested in it. I'm like, okay, like I get where this, the difference is. Then now you do like the slow paced style up in the Northeast. They're like, where's all this? Where's all that? And then that's when you're like, okay, I gotta like just keep on going. So it's definitely a different change of pace for sure.
I appreciate every territory I get to wrestle in for different reasons. Like I love the Northeast because it challenges me, it pushes me in the ring, but I love the Southeast because it has taught me so much about how to entertain people and how to really make people a part of what you're doing. It's just, you get benefits from everywhere you wrestle, whether it be in America, Southeast, Northeast, Texas, overseas, Japan,
And I was talking about like you going back to crowd reaction. I think everyone is so different when it comes to, again, like America, we're so desensitized to like, oh, like someone hit a Canadian, German, poison, suplex, dive, finger poke of doom. Like everyone's like, oh, yay. Like,
that's what you're going to do, Landon, next match?
That's exactly what I'm going to do next match. But no, but it's like it's like Germany, when I was there in March, like people were just like on their feet for like the craziest stuff. Like it wasn't even crazy stuff. And then you go to Thailand and that group, they're just like, you do a stalling suplex, everyone loses their freaking mind. They're like, holy shit. I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Like it's cool to see the different styles, and you use that to different countries and different continents where like they may not like they're oversaturated with wrestling versus they never see wrestling before in their life, and that's what gets you excited about it. You're like, oh man, now I get to do this, and it's a lot. Like it's a lot. Like wrestling, like you hate it sometimes, but you love it, especially when it's stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Germany, and you have obviously the WXW shirt on. I saw you. It was you and Stephen Wolf, I think, right at the the 16 karat weekend shows, like the
Wild
why am I blanking? Yeah, yeah. I was blanking the name of the show, but it was really great match. But honestly, to me, like that crowd that was assembled there was kind of like they're super wrestling fans. Like, people traveled in for that. I think people were reacting like it kind of reminded me of like a Progress Wrestling crowd or like some of these Northeastern US crowds, but just really just invested and into everything and grateful to meet all these new wrestlers that they were seeing for the first or second time. Is that something you would like to do again? Get back over there? I know it wasn't just WXW. You did a couple other dates in Europe. But is that something you would like to do again in the future?
Actually, believe it or not, I'm actually going to go back there in November. I'm actually going to go back there for 10 days. I'm going to be flying in November, I want to say 14th, and I'll get in the 15th. And I will be there from November 15th, and I will fly back the 24th with 4 guaranteed matches. So I'm actually returning to WXW. I'm returning to Deutschland. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and going back to what you're saying, Kevin, like I made this comparison before, and obviously, like I make this comparison in a weird way because it's Scenic City Invitational, very big tournament, and then you have the Action Future Showcase, and it's a little bit of a smaller tournament, and so I make that comparison to 16 Karat Weekend. It's kind of like the same thing where it's like, okay, 16 Karat Weekend, big tournament, big 16 Karat event itself. Then you have the Wild Card Edition where it's, hey, let's see these wrestlers, let's introduce them to the crowd just to kind of get a taste of what they can do. And then it's like, okay, now we want them a part of our group, or like if they like them or don't like them, but you can just tell and feel off of them like, okay, but that's kind of like the comparison. I know it sounds like a weird, comparison, but that kind of, relates a little bit with how they are over there, but they're in it. They just get it. They love wrestling, and it just feels like you're in a soccer stadium, but it's for wrestling. And I love it. It's a great atmosphere. And I'd love to go to England, and that's like another bucket list of mine is go to England, obviously go to Japan, just to kind of experience the crowd reactions that they have over there, which I'm sure it's amazing, just like Germany. So I'm excited to go back though. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, like lots of big tournaments this year. And even like SCI, you've done that 2 years. You're finalist last year. This year you worked Paul London SCI weekend, which how was that experience? Because he's so eclectic. And how do you prepare for wrestling Paul London? Like how do you
I love Paul London, and even before that too, one of his friends came up to me and was just like, because again, like we see the match that Paul London has, and it's nothing, like he just wants to go out there and have fun. But one of his friends came up to me and was like, listen, you don't realize that Paul London is nervous about this match. I'm like, with me? Like, and it's such a good feeling because I talked to him beforehand too, and it's just like, so my dad passed away when I was 7, and this kind of like starts with this transition into this. So my dad passed away when I was 7, but before that, we bonded over wrestling. So it's one of the reasons why I'm so heavy about wrestling. And so when I got back into it, so he passed away in 2001. You fast forward a few years later, I saw an advertisement for WrestleMania 20. I saw Rey Mysterio. That's my favorite wrestler ever. And I was like, oh man, I know that guy in the mask, and trying to get back into it. And I see this guy just sprinting out I was like, wow, you got Roadrunner just sprinting out to the ring, and it's Paul London. And then I would never in a million years just think 20 years later that I would be wrestling someone that I looked up to. So it was just like a very emotional, heartwarming moment. And then he gave me a hug after. He's like, I love you, man. And he's such a good guy. And like, we put on such a good story, even though we cheated. I hate that. But we still had such a wonderful moment, and I'm really excited. And hopefully I get to wrestle him again. I think that'd be a great time. But yeah, we both definitely enjoyed it. And it was just it was a beautiful moment. So I was really thankful for that.
And maybe you cheat this time and there's a different outcome,
Brother, I don't cheat. I don't know what you're talking about.
Like the good doctor.
The good doctor. I was trained by Robert Gibson. He's all face, baby. Rock and roll.
That's true. That's very true. The speaking of the good doctor, I think we have to talk about it. As far as I know, unless someone is very good about keeping what they do during the day a secret, we've never had a doctor of chiropractic medicine or practicing chiropractor on the show before, but here we are.
Yep.
Man, do you ever run into anybody who's seen you do your thing in the ring, or maybe even like, have you worked on an opponent before? Like there has to be some kind of funky overlap between these two careers.
It's so, how do I explain it? I mean, I've had a lot of people come up to me and talk to me about chiropractic. I've had a few people that's asked me, for adjustments. It's very rewarding. I mean, and so you take a kid who's from East Kentucky he's had this dream of like playing like pro basketball, or he's wanted to do something with like down like an athletic sporting route. Nothing was to, happen. I was like, okay, maybe there's a different road that I'm supposed to take in my life. And then it took me to like, again, community college. It took me to getting my bachelor's in exercise science. And then, I moved down to Georgia, going to chiropractic school at Life University. And that's where I started my training with Robert Gibson. And then, just juggling the two, it wasn't as bad because during COVID, we were also doing online classes. So it's kind of easier to manage classes and then going to like training and then doing wrestling shows and stuff like that. And then as I get older into this experience, I have a lot of wrestlers that come up to me and talk to me about, chiropractic. Is it safe for you? Does it really kill you? We're the safest profession when it comes to being like in the healthcare system, just because we have the lowest malpractice because we have very rare injuries, if any, compared to like someone like a surgeon or like a medical doctor where they feed medicines for, XYZ reasons. And so like I talk to them all the time, and it's just a rewarding field to like have your patients come in because they trust you. It's like, no matter funny enough, like this was last year, Scenic City, where like I had staples in my head. I had 6 staples. I had a bruise on my neck from when Manders slapped the hell out of me. And people thought it looked like a hickey, but I had to kayfabe that. But I was just like, oh yeah, like I mean, I got to tell some of my I tell some of my patients that I'm a wrestler, so I try like keep it hidden though. But as I'm going through, it's like, yeah, like I have this headache or I had this low back pain. And then, like after you adjust them for so long, then they're like, I can play with my grandbabies again, or I can go out for walks. And like, it's such a rewarding field to be in. And then it's like, you see that, and then you get in the ring and then you body slam the shit out of people. And then you're like, okay, I'm adjusting spines by day and then I'm adjusting spines by night. So it's
that's awesome.
Breaking people and putting them back together.
Exactly. In the daytime, I say, I got your back. In the ring, I say, watch your back. So
the duality of the doctor.
Duality of the doctor.
We were just talking about when you were in words. You were talking about when you were in school, you were able to take the online courses and that was easier for you in your wrestling career. But to be a chiropractor, you have to be in a room with another person to make the adjustments. So how does that work schedule impact your ability to make towns? And like, how do you work with that? Because that's a lot to balance.
It was, and that's so there's 2 things that came out of COVID that I was really thankful for. One, the fact that my now wife gave me a chance because we met together when I wasn't wrestling and she wasn't bartending. She's also a chiropractor too. We kind of met during that time. And then the second thing is being able to do the class work and then being able to go to training. So Monday through Friday was the typical, school years of like what we do, but there's some that's like, hey, you can like later on, once they said like COVID's fine and whatever, you either had the option of doing classes online or you could do classes in person. Majority of us, we decided doing online because we didn't want to show up to class. But when it comes to the adjustment portion, we actually had patients that we would bring out from the community, and they would have certain hours because we have certain amount of adjustments that we have to uphold on our end in order to graduate and in order to move on to the next step. So there's like student clinic where I would just adjust a peer of mine, which happened to be my wife, Jordan. We would adjust each other. Outpatient clinic, we would bring in a couple of people. Some of them are wrestlers, can't say because of HIPAA, but they would come in, I would adjust them. And then I would do something that's called peak, which is pretty much just an internship at someone else's office. And that was probably about an hour away. And I would just go in Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So like my Friday and Saturday schedules were a lot easier. And during that time too, like I've had those moments. I don't know if you ever had this moment before, Kaia, but like so far in your career, and then you look back at moments that you wish you had and you're like, I'm glad I didn't have that. that's kind of where I was. I was like, oh man, like I feel like I should be on this stage. And then I'm looking back, I'm like, glad I didn't. So mostly my wrestling was in the state of Georgia, or like maybe a couple in South Carolina or Tennessee. And I didn't really venture out that far, and it was just on a Saturday. So I didn't really have that much of a, like a mix of a schedule for me. So it was easier on that end. But again, it was just like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing, classes within. So, and that's the same concept with me at work right now. It's like I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then if I was booked for Wrestling Open, I would just drive 30 minutes from my office to the White Eagle, because that's how close they are. And I just make that transition from
drive. Wow.
Yeah, I just make that transition, be like, okay, have a good day. I'm ready to body slam some people. And I just go straight from there, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and just wherever I go now. So I'm every
Well, actually, definitely works out well.
It does. It does get tiring. I mean, and again, life on the road, we don't expect it to be all sunshine and rainbows, but it definitely puts a strain on yourself. But I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. And my wife's very supportive of the dream that I have. So I'm just glad and thankful that I get to take these big steps and, chase my dreams and go to different places, not just the Southeast, but also the Northeast, and being able to travel all over the world. So I'm really thankful.
Yeah, and you've done a lot. By the time this comes out, the PWI 500 will be available. I'm not going to tell you your number, but you did make the list. I think you feel pretty good about your progress.
Oh.
But by the time this comes out, people will know that. Looking at even just evaluating you for that, I believe in the evaluation period, you had, and this is just what's on Cage Match. So this is not counting other matches that weren't logged, that are logged on other sites, 65 matches, which is, if you look back, you probably aren't even thinking about how many matches you're having a week, per month or whatever. But then you can look back and like, wow, I really did that. And over a 12-month stretch, 65, that's a busy schedule for someone who's not signed, for someone who's not, being featured on like some kind of touring product. You're just getting out there and you're doing it. And that's pretty remarkable.
But first, I'm speechless, because it's like, I know people talk about the PWI 500, stuff like that, but I mean, like, that's my first time making the list. So I just want to say thank you for that. It brought a tear to my eye, because it's like, that's a cool moment to have. I'm hard on myself all the time. And like, I'll tell you this, and like, again, this will be posted for like later, but I had a hell of a week last week, where it's like Monday through Thursday, I'm adjusting people, again, okay, actually, I'm going to ask you all this a question. On average, and I'll start with Kevin, then go to Kaia, whichever way I'm doing the camera. I don't know which way. How many patients do you think that I see from Monday through Thursday? Kevin, go first. How many patients?
Oh gosh. Monday through Thursday. I'd say it's got to be in the dozens. So like 35.
Okay, so I'll say this: Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I adjust from 7 to 10 and 3 to 6, and then Tuesdays I just adjust 3 to 5. So you said 35. Now, Kaia, what do you say?
I was gonna say maybe like 28 is what I was thinking. I mean, I don't know, like, if it's like, are people just in and out, or like, is like a true doctor's appointment where they come in, there's a little bit of a consultation, and then that's what I was in my head trying to get through.
So you're all good. So there are different offices where they're like that. So for us, day one is just consult, exam, x-ray. The second day is going over report of findings, where it's like what we see and the reason for your symptoms, et cetera, et cetera. And it was, and then after that, you get your first adjustment. And then after that, like the period of that is just all adjustments. But it's in and out. So if you want to change your number,
I'm gonna stick with 28. Yeah.
All right. Throughout a week span, I see almost, and it's not just me, it's me and my other doctors, just two of us, almost 600 patients.
So I was closer.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible, Landon. That's so many.
It is. And so like, and again, going back to, what we talked about before, like last week, I adjusted like Monday through Thursday, I've adjusted so many people. And I think like my last day, that Thursday, I adjusted 176 patients. And then I went straight from there, drove an hour to Malden, Massachusetts to wrestle for Chaotic. And I wrestled Richard Holiday. And then like we had a great match, and then just I feel like there's stuff in there where like I'm in great shape, but there's moments where I just feel like I can't even catch a breath like from the weeks because I'm just so exhausted. But I just love this sport so much, and I'm just kind of like I need, like it's hard for me to catch a breath sometimes. But then you realize these moments that you've achieved and those goals that you want. So like when you mentioned that I was on PWI, like it made me really happy. So I just want to say thank you for that. It means a lot to me.
Well, you earned it. That's it's not a charity or a gift. It's when people are doing the work. So congratulations to you. And
Thank you.
I, you did a lot this year. Just looking through. I mean, one of the other things, you faced
playing like 3 years and haven't had 63 matches yet. Like, and you had 63
Yeah.
matches in an evaluation period. That's impressive.
So believe it or not, my anniversary for wrestling was last August, but I've been wrestling for 6 years. Not a lot of people know that because I wrestled in the shittiest part of Kentucky. No offense to Kentucky, I love them so much. But literally my first ever wrestling match, I only had 2 days of training. And this was from a guy by the name of Mike Sampson, which he was more of like, or he went by Michael Scarberry, but he was more of like a jobber in the WWF. I wouldn't say jobber, I say enhancement talent. I'll use that. But he was more like enhancement talent for WWF. But he taught me like the old school basic stuff. And then like after my second day of training, it just happens to be like the number one rule, or one of the number one rules of wrestling, is make sure you have your gear with you. I had my gear with me. I had my first 2 matches because it was a tournament match. I was okay. Then I had my second match, or then I had my third match. I had a Royal Rumble. I won that. I fought for a heavyweight championship match. That was an awful match. And then I moved down to Georgia, and then Robert Gibson was like, "Hey, like we gotta, help tear down your structure a little bit and help rebuild it up." I'm like, "Yeah, it's no problem." And plus, I'll get acclimated with school because this was early or late 2018, so that kind of helps me from October to December just to kind of see where I'm at, because we go by quarters versus semesters. So not like August, December, January, May. It's like bi-monthly, I guess. So, or tri-monthly. So in January, I showed up to one of Robert Gibson's shows, APCW, and I was like, okay, just kind of hang out here and just see what's going on. And then I literally hear him say, where's Landon Hale at? And then I was literally like right behind, or like right in front of the curtain. Like, so like stage is in front of me, or no, rings in front of me, sitting out in the audience, then curtain behind me. I went to the back, and then they're like, do you have your gear? I'm like, yes. And so I was in a tag team championship match because someone no-showed. And then the following month, it was that aha moment. Like, this is my moment that I'm really proud to be a wrestler. Like, this is something I could see myself doing. It was February of 2019. I was in a tag team match, but my partner and my opponent's partner didn't show up because of it was random reasons. So we had a singles match for the tag team titles for his promotion. Had a good match. I came to the back and I started tearing up and I started bawling because Robert comes up to me. He's like, great freaking job, kid. I'm so proud of you. And in that moment, I'm just like, this is something I can see myself doing. But I know like Cage Match does a lot of different like matches from them, but like a lot of the stuff they haven't recorded, I've been wrestling since 2018 up until now. And like and obviously with my wrist that I broke 2 years ago, like I was out from September 22 up until like April 23. So give or take, but around like 6 years I've been wrestling. But it's just some people, they accelerate and they're like, hey, I've been wrestling for a year and they're doing great things. Other people, they're still trying to catch their break and it's been 10 years. So just for those moments, I'm just really thankful for like where I'm at right now in my career. Sorry, that was like a long-winded.
No, I think you hit on something really important. And I think that for most people, you're always going to have, oh my goodness, I know. Hold on. Sorry.
Oh, you got a dog. That's awesome.
I have 2 here and they've been being very good up until about 30 seconds ago.
Love it.
I will show them off later. But you hit on something really important. And I think there's always going to be exceptions. There's always going to be like the person that wrestles for a year and gets signed, or the person that wrestles 6 months and explodes on the scene for whatever reason, even if we don't know why. But for most people, I think it takes a good 5 or 6 years to really hit your stride and find what your calling is in this business. And you mentioned that you are hard on yourself. You're very critical. I think we all are very hard on ourselves and very critical of ourselves. But in your opinion, is there a balance to being critical of yourself, but also not suffocating yourself so you do have room to pursue the growth that needs to happen?
I think those moments when we actually get to sit down. So like, and again, this is going to be posted later, but I'm in a hotel room in South Carolina. I'm not wrestling until tomorrow for Pro Wrestling Union. So I'm just sitting here, just like, you have those moments when you could sit down, and I've learned something. It's, we all get into our heads when it comes to places that we want to go, places that we want to work, people that we want to wrestle. There's just a lot of things, but we don't ever get to appreciate where we're at now. And that's what kills us, because I could look at Kaia and be like, Kaia, you're killing it. You're out here in Iowa. You're going all over the East Coast, and you're making a name for yourself, girl. We got to be the witch doctors one day, by the way. But
Yes, please. Someone needs to book that.
yes.
Oh my goodness.
Matt Griffin. Sorry.
Yeah, I had the same thought. I was like, Matt.
We'll come out to the witch doctor song, like the old school, ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, ting, tang, wada, wada, bing, bang.
The Alvin and the Chipmunks version, please.
Yes, the Alvin and the Chipmunks. But no, going back to what I was saying though, it's like I think everyone gets so in their heads of where they want to go, they don't understand where they're at now. And so like a lot of people come up to me and they're like, Landon, you just wrestled in Germany. Landon, you just wrestled in Thailand. You wrestled Mustafa Ali. And like in those moments, I'm like, yes, but I want to do this, this, and this. But it's like I need to like sit down and just like appreciate that. And I go through my phone through like my history of like having that match with Mustafa Ali, and it's just like he gave me the ring, and he said some nice words, and I hugged Matt Griffin, I hugged the wrestling junkies. It was just like those are those moments where it's like you get to sit down and be like you're proud of yourself, and then having an emotional moment with Paul London, love that man to death, and just having that special time with him where you get to hang with someone that you watched when you were a kid. We all get into our heads when it's like we want to go somewhere so far in our lives, but we never are complacent with where we're at now. And I feel like we need to sit down and just soak in those moments, because that time we're never going to get that back. And so I think that's where a lot of wrestlers, they get so beat up on themselves because they want to move on to that next contract. They want to move on to be the next top guy. They want to move on to wrestle for big top indie shows or feds and stuff like that. But it's just like, appreciate those moments now, because you're never going to get that back. You're never going to get the time back to be in the car with your friend or to do this and that. It's just enjoying yourself in those moments.
Celebrate your wins, live in the moment as much as you can, and take it all in, because it goes by fast.
It's called being present.
Yeah,
exactly.
So we want to give you a chance to promote anything you'd like to promote coming up in the fall, social media, whatever you'd like. By the way, worth mentioning that Mustafa Ali match for the TNA X Division title. That was a big deal.
10 out of 10.
On that. Yeah.
I'll say thank you so much. I'll say this too. He wasn't even. I guess it was a surprise that he put that on the line. So like the fourth grade in me was like, "You're wrestling for the X Division title." Like I was hyperventilating and like just cheery, and like the 10-year-old in me was just like, "You're doing great." I was like, "All right, I got this. This is gonna be good." Or we killed it. It was awesome. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, that was definitely a heartfelt moment too. And then me and Mustafa, like we had such a good moment after the match too. So he's such a sweet guy. So I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah, very, very cool stuff. So before we give you the chance to plug and promote, Kaia, do you have any other questions for our guest here today before?
Yeah, actually, it was just, I feel like people always say something toward the end that gets me thinking. I never come onto these with like witchy wisdom planned, but someone always says something that spurs it in me. And we were talking about how we don't necessarily see our accomplishments or where we are, or we doubt ourselves. And it's like, guess what? Newsflash. Nobody comes into this world hating themselves. Like you don't come out of the womb covered in self-doubt. Like that happens later on in your life. And to me, a very big part of growth and coming into your own is having the ability to shed all of those negative layers that society puts on you and remember who your original self truly is. And that's when you become the most powerful.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Wow. Wonderful stuff. Okay. So, Landon, the floor is yours. Anything you want to promote, plug?
Alrighty. I'm actually going to be back at Action and TWE September 27th, September 28th. Hoot hoot. I don't know if I'm going to be advertised yet, but I'll say it anyways. I'm making my debut for LBAC October 5th.
Those shows are so fun. You're going to love it.
I'm excited. I don't know if it'll be out, but I am still the BST heavyweight champion. I'm actually fighting Richard Holiday September 20th, whenever this airs. And I believe I'll have a couple more matches coming up in the fall that hasn't been announced yet. And then obviously WXW, I will be making my return to Germany. So I'm excited about that. And I will also be making a debut in another state, and it will be in the Midwest, but that I will not say just yet. It's a little bit north of where you're from, Kai, or where you're at right now. So I won't, that's the only hint I will give.
There's not really much further north. So
there's intrigue.
Whatever. Whatever.
I got you. We will confirm off record.
Yes. But yeah, those are the places that you could see me at in the future as of now. And then whenever this gets posted up later, I will type in future dates and stuff like that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kaia, as always, for being here and doing this with me. Thank you, everyone who's tuned in, and we'll see you next time on Pro Wrestling Indie Traded.